Now that my controls are nice and clean, the next thing that I need to do is have them control the joints, because right now, if I rotate this, it does nothing. Now, the way that we've got this set up, there is, and I know this is going to sound crazy because we snapped these things together with the V key, which means they are snapped. But there is actually a weird little offset between the curve and the joint. So look at my rotate tool here. And then when I click on the joint, you see that it changes direction. So there's an offset between these two things. And the way the box rig works, that doesn't matter, but it matters to the joint. So what I need to do is I need to use a type of control that allows the curve to control the joint while maintaining this offset. And the easiest way to do that is with a node called a constraint. And that's exactly what a constraint is. It allows one object to control another object from a place of offset. We're going to be using the orient constraint because we're going to be rotating these box flaps, and orient will allow you to control rotation. In the orient option box, the only thing you want to do is make sure that this maintain offset is checked. I do not believe that it is by default, but you can go ahead, just check that off. And then you're going to select the curve first, shift select the joint second, and hit apply. Once you've done this once, you can use the G key on your keyboard to restart it. And I'm going to go through these and press G and talk about selection order. So selection order is really important when you're making constraints because this is telling the computer which object is in control and which object is being controlled. The constraint is technically a secondary node that happens quite literally on the selected object. And I know you're like, but both of them are selected objects. I'm just opening up my outliner here to show you this is what orient constraints look like. This is what all constraints look like. This one just says orient. That's how I know it's an orient. So when I select objects, the first object that I select turns green, like so. When I shift select, the new object that I select turns green, and the green wireframe is called the active selection. So my constraint is going to be made on the active selection. So my first selection is always going to be the curve because that's my control object, and the second selection is going to be my joint because that is the object that I'm trying to control, and the constraint is going to be made on the active selection or the green selection. So as you go through, make sure that your curve looks white and your joint looks green, and then you should be fine. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is all of the constraints I'm going to make. So let me close that up. I'm going to turn the skeleton layer off and the box geometry on. And now if I take these circles, they will indeed rotate my flaps. Whee! Okay, so these work great. You'll notice that I have not yet done the root joint. I'm going to come back to that in the next video. I want to give you a chance to make your orient constraints. So I'm going to leave this here with my outliner open so you can see that my constraints go in the joint part of the hierarchy, not in the control part. If you've got a constraint that's in the wrong place, you can just select it and delete it and try that one again. But you want to see all of your constraints up in the skeleton, not down in the controls. Okay, take some time with that and see how you do.